Welcome back, guys, to the Construction Entrepreneur Podcast. If it's your first time being here, my name is Dean Barton. It's all about construction and entrepreneurship, business side, relationship side, leadership side, absolutely everything that you need to be fucking shit hot at what you do in your business. And today's episode, what I do is one topic per episode. This episode is all about handling and dealing with problem customers. It does come up, it is nature of the beast. Shit happens, you do come across the odd client who's a complete pain in the fucking backside. Every industry is the same. It's not unique to construction. You know, there are problem customers wherever you go. You can do absolutely everything in the world absolutely perfectly, and you will still get the odd customer that will be an absolute pain in the dick. It's just the nature of the world. But I'm going to relate it to exactly some of the stuff that I've gone through, some of the stuff that I've experienced, and what I really think about the industry as a whole, of a lot of experience dealing with different types of customers from all walks of life, whether it's residential or commercial. Shit just happens and it just comes up. So there's been three key distinct times where I've had problem customers myself, and you can relate to each one of these yourselves, and then I'll give my view on it as well of what I think. But the very first one, the biggest problem customer that I had was earlier on when I started out, was doing extensions, refurbs, that type of stuff. And I was doing bigger works at this time, you know, 30, 40, 50 grand jobs. And someone asked me to do a bathroom for them, which I wasn't really interested in at the time. I didn't really want to do the job. It was a referral, so a customer had referred this person to me. So really the job was mine to lose anyway, but I didn't want to let down the person that referred me because I'd done quite a bit of work for them. And it was, you know, a relationship of a pull of like, oh, I feel like I should do it because of the person that referred me. But I went round to look at the job. It was a pokey house. It was a terraced house on a road with no parking. So instantly you're thinking, oh, this is going to be hard work. It was a tiny, tiny house, really pokey, really tight, really narrow and steep staircase, doing a bathroom upstairs. The bathroom was tiny. You know, it was, I can't remember, it was like a 5-6 grand job. It was not worth my time at the time. And she seemed like quite a nice lady, but very particular, you know, as you're looking around things, very, very anal, particular, wanting things a specific way. And I just got the vibe that this was going to be a problem job. So I ignored my gut, which is the wrong thing to do. You know, lesson number one, never ever ignore that. If you're getting the vibe straight away, this is going to be an issue, just don't even entertain it. It's a waste of everyone's time. But I did, I fucked it up. I continued, I did it, and I priced the job. I put a little bit more money on it than I normally would, than what I wanted. And, you know, lo and behold, I won the job. And then you've got to deliver it. And again, at the same time, once you said yes, I wasn't excited about the job whatsoever. I was literally going, oh, fuck, I've got to deliver this now. And, you know, the moment starting on site, materials turning up, having to put waste around the back in their garden, it was constant ag the whole way through. Everything was an issue. It was like, well, you can't leave rubbish there. And it's like, okay, well, where are we going to leave it? There's dust in the living room. There's dust in the kitchen. You know, dust travels everywhere. And when I say that, we always operated at a really clean level. You know, everything's hoovered every day. Protective stuff's put down. You know, you've gone above and beyond on everything you possibly can, because I'm a big fan of that you leave the house immaculate when you're working in people's houses. If you do that alone, people will just really like you and say good things. If you're protective of their own property and their own house and you're really clean and tidy and respectful. We were doing all of that and everything was still an issue, you know. And then it was one of them jobs, it just turned into, if anything could go wrong, it would go wrong. You know, there was leaks from the plumber. My plasterer went in and he took his ladder up the stairs. Again, like I said, really tight, narrow hallway stairs. He smashed the light bulb on the landing. It was really low. It was low ceilings. Accidents happen, but for the client, the customer, that was like the end of the world. You know, it was like the fucking world had just stopped because we'd smashed a light bulb that we just replaced the same day. So there was no issue. There was no drama. But it was just everything like that was just a fucking problem. And the whole way through. And the problem is when you're working in really tight, pokey spaces as well, you guys will know this listening, you can only have so many hands on site. Only one person can really be on the job at once. So it sort of takes what it takes. You can't rush it to speed it up. You know, the job is the job. And this is the problem with smaller jobs, is that they just create more ag than what they're worth. But the key thing is, I knew at the beginning, before I even priced the job, I didn't want to do the job, but I did it. And this is what I'm saying to you guys, is if you get that feeling, don't even entertain pricing the job, because the minute you do it and accept it, you're then working on that job and it's taking up all your brain power and your space, that your lads and your guys, and you could be earning money elsewhere, you've limited that opportunity because you're dealing with shit in front of you. So I experienced it on that level, and then the next level, I had this similar thing when I took on an extension job for a client. I really didn't want to do it, and this was a time that I was in the commercial business. Doing extensions was not what we did, but someone had seen our vans and contacted us and wanted us to do the job. We'd built up a really good reputation, and they said, could you do extensions? And it was like, oh, no, not really. It's not really what we do. And we didn't want to do it, but I don't know what it is. It's this thing in this industry of like, you go and look at jobs and you already know that you shouldn't be doing it, but you do it. I don't know why we do it. I don't know why people do it. I don't do it anymore. I just don't fucking do this shit anymore. If it's against what you do and you know, your business, I just don't fucking touch it anymore. Age, experience, you know, wisdom of knowing to fucking stay away from these things. It's much easier to learn from other people's mistakes than your own, but sometimes you have to make your own mistakes to really learn it yourself. And everyone in this industry would have done this. You've taken on jobs. It's not strictly what you do, but you've done it because, I don't know, whether it's a fear of like, you need to do it because you need the work. You don't, and this is the thing, we didn't at the time. You know, we're doing multi-millions in commercial construction, and this customer phones up asking for a residential extension, and you just see yeah, that'd be quite a nice job. Yeah, we can do that. We can make that work. You can fit it in. But then it ends up costing you so much more in time and effort and money because you're taking the eye off the ball of what you mainly do. And this is the thing to say to you guys here is, do not fucking do that. Pick your lane and stick to what you're fucking good at. Do not be taking on other jobs that are way out of what you do and what you're... It's just completely opposite, polar opposite to what you do day to day. It's just ridiculous, you know, it's just a waste of time, you know. And if you imagine you're a restaurant and you're an Italian restaurant and then you start serving Indian food, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And you don't want to be doing that in your business as well. You know, if you're a very, very good kitchen fitter, for example, you're a kitchen fitting business, and then someone starts asking you to, I don't know, start doing some concreting out the back of their garden, it just doesn't make sense. Unless you're a general building contracting company, it doesn't make sense to be an expert in one thing and then you start doing other shit because you just don't know what you don't know, and you start doing shit that you just shouldn't be getting involved in. It's going to just cost you more time, more money. You're not going to make as much money as you think on that job because you just don't know the stuff, and you're going to fuck it up, and it's just going to become a problem. And the same thing on that, you know, priced the extension, won the job, didn't really want to win it. And the whole way through, the client was that type of client going, oh, why has this skip been put there? And it's like, well, we spoke about this before. It's the only spot it can fucking go. And then, you know, measuring brickwork, measuring like expansion gaps, measuring all sorts of stuff. This guy was anal as fuck. And then it'd be the type of guy that's phoning you at 7 o'clock at night going, oh, I've just measured this. Why is this like this? And you're like, you're not a builder. You don't understand this. Why are you doing this? Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you just meet people like this. They don't know what they're talking about, but they're the most anal. They think they know what they're talking about because they've been on Google, they've looked at stuff, and they think they know better than what you do. And it's just, some people are just like this. So I've been through this, and then the minute we finished that job, it earned less money than what we thought it was going to make. It was more ball ache. They then wanted to pay cash, which is just a fucking red flag no. It's like the clients that have all the big expectations. They want everything, but they want everything on their terms and their favour as well. And it's like, well, okay, we can do that, but you can't have a receipt or a guarantee. And they're like, well, I need a receipt and a guarantee. And like, okay, so you want to basically defraud the government and not pay VAT, but then you want a receipt, so you've got proof of purchase, which basically validates that you've scammed the government and HMRC, and then you want me to honour a guarantee as well by you asking me to commit fraud basically and not pay VAT. It's just all fucked up. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the minute people start going down that road, you need to just walk away from the jobs. Forget about it, because there's plenty of other good customers out there, are the right customers that you can work with. But that job was a complete ball ache until the very, very end. Even things like the set of doors that went in, there was just issues with them. I sent my best chippies to those jobs, but for whatever reason, the doors kept dropping and kept fucking up. So for weeks afterwards, we had to keep going back. And that's at a cost. It's at a cost to me, basically. You're not charging the customer anymore for that. Every time you send someone there for half a day and fucking around, it's 250 quid before all said and done. And that's costing me money. and you probably experienced this yourself, you've had jobs that just end up costing you money just to solve them and get them finished. And it was just a complete ball ache the whole way through, and it's just something I will never ever do ever again. And then lastly, to give you a third example, a big commercial job that we took on, a very good repeat customer. We were doing a couple of £1 million a year with this customer at the time, and they wanted a job doing in a rush. They wanted a job doing lastminute.com, no design. They needed to spend the money because of their budgets. They had to spend the budget before the end of the financial year. This is how it sort of works in the commercial world. It's a little bit different to residential. And they were like, just get on with the job. And we priced the job originally, it was like 180 grand from memory. And it ended up being like a nearly £1 million job in variation. So you can imagine you've priced a job that's 180 at one very loose set spec. And their attitude and their ethos was just throw bods at it, just put people on it, we'll get started, then we'll work it out as we go. We went along with it because it was such a big customer and it's a reliable customer that we've had. But it turned into a nightmare. And the reason it turned into a nightmare is that the commercial team that we were used to dealing with changed halfway through the job. So then a different QS came in, a different project management team came in from somewhere else, because this is how commercial companies work, they're big companies. And then they started questioning, well, why have you done this? Why has this been done? This spec hasn't been agreed. And the whole thing turned into a fight. So a good customer that has been a good customer turned into a bad customer because we broke the rules of starting jobs without the design, without proper contracts and orders in place and agreements of what it is and timescales and programs, all of the basic stuff that I say and harp on about that you have to do all the time. We broke our own rules, and that turned into a fist fight. And this happened exactly at the peak time of COVID as well. So you can imagine all of the extras and variations and claims for COVID of people not working, social distancing, absolutely everything. So it created basically an absolute shitstorm of the job going completely fucked up from one bad problem to another. And we had labour on those jobs, not knowing if we were going to get paid. We had to keep the job rolling. You committed costs, you've committed POs to our contractors. And we were fighting the whole time. And to give you an overview, that job was initially supposed to be like a 6-week job. It ended up being like 7 months. And for a year after that job finished, we were still negotiating, going backwards and forwards and arguing costs and arguing, getting purchase orders and basically chasing the money down as well. So the amount of resource that took from an emotional point of view of just the ag and the stress and the ball ache, but from a resource point of view of people in the office, the amount of nights that I spent in the office with some of my team working backwards and going, and going through all the emails, going through all the contracts, printing everything out and trying to justify everything and trying to back cost stuff and trying to work back variations. You imagine you've got a job that's just so messy that no one knows what costs are associated with anything. We broke all the rules, made all the mistakes of what you should not fucking do. And that is just a prime example of when a customer's really good, but it turned bad because we all just broke rules in a rush because the client wanted stuff doing in a rush. So a red flag, whenever you've got a customer that wants something doing now, there's no design in place, it is likely that job is going to turn into an absolute shambles, so stay away from it. So that's 3 examples that I've specifically have. But look, if you handle bad problems like that, if you handle problem clients and you handle them in the right way, you do the right thing, and sometimes eating shit is the right thing to do to protect your brand, your reputation. You just have to do that. Your reputation is worth absolutely everything. And what I found is that, and you will know this as well, is that bad news travels really fast. If you get a reputation of a contractor that's left site maybe, or a customer that's unhappy and grumbled because you've not done the job you said you were going to do, and you've let it get bad as well. You've not just held your own, sucked it up, put your tail between your legs and just eaten a bit of shit to get the job finished so that the customer can't say anything bad about you. If you don't do that, if they go off saying bad things, that travels at 10 times, 100 times the speed of good news. People don't really talk about good news. People always want to talk about the bad stuff, don't they? It's like the news, It's only filled with bad news. They go on and on and on and on about it. You never see in the news, they go, oh, great day today. This has happened and this has happened and this has happened. People just don't do that because think about it from your customer's perspective. They expect you to do a good job. They're paying you to do a good job. It's like when you go out for a meal. Again, easy example. It's minimum expectation that the meal's going to be good and the service is going to be good. But when it's bad, you tell everyone about it and go, oh, shit service last night, this was crap, this was rubbish, this was awful, didn't leave a tip, food wasn't on time, food didn't taste much, waitress was rude. You talk a lot more about the bad stuff. So you've got to think and be aware of that yourself as a business owner, is that you never ever want people saying bad things about you, because it just amplifies and gets magnified and gets way out of context. You know, by the time a story is third hand, it's way vastly different to what actually happened. And if you just don't control that, it will haunt you forever. You know, it will haunt you for 5 years, 10 years. It might come up somewhere, an opportunity might come up in 5 or 10 years time, and that person might have a relationship or know someone that you've had a bad ding dong with before. So you just never ever want it. You just want to have the mindset of a business owner, especially in this construction industry, of just never having anyone being able to say anything bad about you personally, or about your company or any of your staff within it. You just don't want that whatsoever, because it's just a not a good thing to have. So going into this now, going, okay, how do you and how do I now look at things of going, right, how do you stop this in the first place? Now, step one for me is, if the warning signs are there, register the warning signs, acknowledge the warning signs, and walk away from it. If it's not in line with what you do, if it is not in your reach of your capabilities and your possibilities, and it's that bit stretched too far, don't do it. Don't put yourself in the position where you're going to be fucked and you could be snookered. And you've got to think about this 3 or 4, 5 moves ahead of not taking a job now, but it's going to fuck you up later on down the line. So if you read the signs that the customer is going to be a problem, because they're just that type of person. You know, there are people in life, they're never happy with anything. You know, you can give them the absolute best and then always find something to complain about. So you've always got to be looking for people and registering, and when you're talking to them, you've got around to look at the job, the way they've communicated with you, the way that they're interacting with you when you're looking at the job and the work, and the backwards and forwards over email, over the job, the spec. You want to be paying attention the whole time to what that person's actually like. Are they actually a customer that you want to deal with? And if you get put in front of a customer and you go, I don't even like this person, this problem's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, he's a bit of a dick, or she's a bit of a dick, the best thing to do is actually walk away. Unless the caveat is, you absolutely need the work, which is not the position you want to be in. You know, very early on in your journey in a business, you might be in that position where you need the work, or you need the job to showcase what you can do. That's the only decision that you can make. But if you're up and running, you've got plenty of leads coming in, you've got plenty of work, and you don't need to do this, don't do it, because it will cost you so much more. That's step one. Step two is basically not giving the customers a problem to have in the first place from yourself. So from a business point of view, where do problems typically arise from? They typically arise from the money, the finances, and the program, or the finish of the job, you know, the quality of the job. So first of all, the money. If your quote is bang on the money, it's very detailed, it's been worked out properly, you are on it with your numbers, your finances, all of these subcontractors, the elements of cost, and you know, it's really been thought out properly and correctly. You just know your shit, that job is going to cost X amount to deliver, and that's the cost of the client, and we've covered everything off. It goes wrong when you, the business owner, haven't looked at the job properly, you've underestimated it, and then you try going to the client for variations that aren't strictly variations, it's stuff that you've missed and things that you fucked up on, and you're going back to the client asking for more money. If you're doing that, you are asking for problems. You are asking and giving permission to the client to be a ball ache and be a problem, because you fucked up. And this is it. This is the realities of owning a business. The responsibility is all on you. If a client is a problem, that's your problem. It's not, you know, throw your toys out the pram and moan about it. You chose and you had the choice to deal with that customer. So the problem is yours. And if you haven't priced things correctly, that is your problem as well. That's not your customer's problem. Again, if you were going to any service yourself, the price is the price. Wherever you go, if someone's giving you a price, you want to pay that price. You don't expect someone to come out and go, oh yeah, by the way, we missed that and it's going to be extra because of this, this and this. When it's not genuine variations or extras. Yes, genuine variations and extras is a whole different sideline. Stuff does come up that no one would have known of on a job, and that is a genuine extra. But if you're just fudging money and you're fudging guessing the prices and you've basically fucked it up, that is your problem. That's not your customer's problem. So you have to really have that locked in. And then secondly is the program. If you can't confidently say to your customer, this is the price, this is how long the job's going to take, If you can't do that, you don't know what you're doing. That is the bigger problem. It's not the customer's problem. If you said to a customer, it's going to be a 100 grand job and we're going to be on site for 9 weeks, and you end up being there for 11 because of lack of your own understanding and knowledge and knowing what you fucking do and what your deliverability is like to be able to do that job, that is your problem. And quite rightly, the customer is going to have an issue with you. Because again, if it's yourself, put yourself in their shoes. If someone's told you it's 9 weeks and you end up being on site 11 weeks and you're still way off and the progress is slow, you are going to be pissed off. It is within basic human fucking needs and rights to be pissed off if things take longer than what they should do for no justifiable reason. So when you commit at the very front to a price and a program, you have to commit to what you know you can deliver and what is actual reality. If you are always setting the expectations way off what it actually is, if you're saying you can do a job in 6 weeks when realistically it's going to take 9, you have to tell the client 9, and it has to be priced in accordance with that. You cannot fuck around with that. If you're fucking that up all the time, you are 1,000,000% giving the customer every reason to have a problem and be a problem client. Because I would, if you're paying people a lot of money and you're not delivering, you want more money and you're behind schedule, you are going to have a fucking problem. It is what it is. So you have to be in a position of a business owner committing to jobs. Financially, you're on the money, you know what it's going to cost, and time-wise, you know how long it's going to take. Barring variations that are genuine. I'm talking about the real setup of the job. How long is it going to take, and the program for that job? A client deserves a program. The days of people saying, well, we can't really do a program, it takes what it takes. That is the wrong fucking attitude. 1,000,000%. Like that's ridiculous. That is fucking ridiculous. And bearing in mind, most of you people listening to this job, you're going to be doing jobs that are maximum 6 months. We've got people building skyscrapers that are 4-year projects and they're bang on the money to program. The excuse of we can't give a solid program of this is how long it's going to take is basically just saying that you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how long things are going to take because you don't know what you're doing. So that is the issue. The issue is with you, my friend, not the customer. You need to know how long things can take. And if you don't know that, you need to be asking the right people. You need to be getting the right advice. You need to be looking at experience and speaking to and looking at your subcontractors, your labour, and going, how long does it physically take to do stuff and what's the cost? And then thirdly, the quality. If your quality is not 100% and the customers have got justifiable reasons to pull you up on stuff, that is a massive red flag. You never ever want customers pointing stuff out to you and going, that plastering's not quite right, is it? Or is that supposed to be like that? Or is that finished? If clients are asking you questions like that, things are fucked up. Your quality has to be perfect. Again, customers are paying a lot of money. You can't have substandard results. Like, you've got to deliver an excellent quality finish at all times. Without that, your reputation's fucked. So you can't moan if a client is being a problem if your quality is not up to scratch. It has to be the bollocks every time. There's no room for error or maneuver on that. It has to be excellent. Every trade that you instruct as a business owner has to come in and deliver every single time. You just can't be in a position where if you know something's not quite right, you've got to solve it before the customer sees it. Now there is another line to that where sometimes you can be too anal and good enough is good enough. It might not be exactly 1,000,000% how you would do it. This is a big barrier trap that people stick into. They're being too anal. I'm talking about the fundamentals of things have to be perfectly straight, look perfectly good, finish. The method that people might do it might be slightly different to how you do it, but if the end result is good enough and it's perfect, it's good for the client, the end result is good, then you have to let go a little bit as a business owner. But that's a really common thing that comes up. But it just has to be a good job. It has to be. Again, you don't do anything. You don't buy any service yourself and accept less than what you should. You don't go and get your car cleaned and there's dirt on the wheels and you go, yeah, great, good job, and give people a tip. The standard is the car has to be fucking cleaned and perfect every time. That's what you're paying for. And this is what your customers are paying for. They are paying for you to do a high quality, good job. So if customers are pulling you up on standard of finish, that's your problem. They've got every right in the world to be a problem and kick off about that and hold money back or, have disagreements and basically be a pain in the arse and start micromanaging you as a contractor, which happens a lot. because they don't have the confidence you're going to deliver in what you do. So you need to master pricing, you need to master your program, and you need to master your finish and the quality and the standard that you deliver. Do all of that, then 9 times out of 10, you're not really going to have problems from customers because you're doing what you say you're going to do. Everything's on the money, and that's great. Beyond that, customers are a problem. It just happens. There's not really much you can do about it. If you know that you are mastering those 3 areas I just spoke about, and then people are still problems, they are the problem. That's when you can confidently say, do you know what? They are just a ball ache problem and they are the problem. And then you have to just eat shit and just get the job done and get it finished and just work with that person. And this is where the thing of stress management as a business owner is going, what can you tolerate and what can you basically fucking handle? Is that sometimes you will just come across a client like that who is just tricky. You've done everything perfect. Your quote's perfect. Everything's right. Everything's on the money. You're not ripping them off. It's a great quality job for the price they've got. You've delivered on time. You've done everything you said you were going to do, and the standard is immense. There are people out there that will pull holes in stuff and pick any reason not to pay you because they're just slippery bastards and they want to complain about something or they want something off for free. They want a deal. Those people are just out there and they do come out of the woodwork every once in a while. And it's just part of business. It's part of just being in the game. So don't look at it as a negative and sulk and throw your toys at the pram. Look at it as, okay, we just got a problem client, and do what you need to do to get the job done, get it wrapped up and move on to the next one. It's just nature of the beast. There's nothing you're going to do about it. You're always going to find a customer at some point who's just going to be a dick. But that's life, you know. You meet people in life and you just don't like them. Some people you just don't like, whereas others you just love and you have a great relationship with. And it's just the way it is. But my biggest point with this is just don't ever moan about customers when they're actually right. Because a lot of the times there will be good customers out there that will pull you up on stuff and they are right and you are wrong. And it's having the humility and the lack of ego to understand and go, do you know what, they're right. We need to pull our socks up. And I know from speaking to a lot of people that the turning point for them in their business has actually been when the customers pulled them to one side and said, I'm not being horrible about this, but you need to sort this out. You need to up your communication. You need to up your delivery. You need to up your standards because it's just not good enough. You know, and good customers will have that good conversation with you and tell you in a nice way. Good, decent people will do that in the correct way. And sometimes you need to have that conversation with yourself. And the thing is, as a business owner, you don't want it to get to that point where a customer has to do that. The best thing is actually being honest with yourself openly before that happens and go, are you actually as good as you think you are? And actually question yourself right now as you're listening to this. Are you actually fucking that good? Because you can tell yourself that you are, but are you actually? Are you actually phenomenal? I mean, phenomenal. Next level at going around to a customer's house, having the inquiry come in, it comes in, you respond to them amazingly, on time. You don't leave it for 3 days. You don't piss them off. You don't ignore them. You get straight back to the customer. You ask about the job. You ask them some questions. You go around there. You look professional. You look the part. You're dressed up. You look smart. You talk about a good game, you know, because you know your shit. You're not just speaking. You know what you do because you're amazing. You've got the expertise. You've got the knowledge. You've got the team behind you. You just know what you're fucking doing. You handle that whole process perfectly. You then go back to the office, you price the job and you deliver the price when you said you would. You said it's going to be 2 or 3 days or a week or 2 weeks, depending on the job, and you deliver. You've done that, the quote comes in, it looks perfect. You then follow up with the customer, you have the conversation, they either say yes or no, and then you organise the job from that point, and you've got all your ducks in a row, you've organised all your labour, you've organised all your materials, you've bought better, you've made more money for the company. You're really organised, you're on the button, the team gets sent there day one, and everything happens like bosh, 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 bosh. Everything slots into place. You invoice on the money and the customer pays you. Are you doing all of that? And if you're not, then you've got some work to do on yourself as a business owner and a business development of leading your team. You have to confidently say, we are the best at this, and own that. It's not an arrogance thing. It's not an ego thing. It's own it that you are the best. And if you're not the best, you can't expect the best customers. You can't expect the best from other people if you're not the best and you're not setting that standard that you should be. And I've talked a lot about this on the podcast, and some people, it goes over their head when I say about raising your standards. You have to raise your standards. You know, it's a different vibe. When you go to a Travelodge hotel or the Savoy in London, the whole thing's very different. You know, it's the same shit. Ultimately, you're staying in a hotel room for the night. It's a bed, you go to bed. But the whole shit's very, very different. And there is bog standard on one end of the scale, the Travel Lodge or the Savoy, where everything is just mustard. As soon as you turn up, the guy opens the door, says hello. You feel nice, the check-in's a lot easier. You go to a nice room, the food's amazing, the decor's amazing, everything's on point. It's a very different setup. And what business do you really want? Do you want to be the Travel Lodge or do you want to be the Savoy and be fucking immense at what you do and take pride in what you do and be willing to accept that maybe you're not as good as what you could be on certain areas of the business, and you thrive and you want to really improve all of those areas because you want to be the best. You want to have the best brand name in your area. You want to be known as the boys. And by definition, by doing that, you can then charge slightly higher prices than other people because you've got the reputation, you've got the standard, you are excellent, and there are no holes in you. Once you get to that point, you've already filtered out a lot of the problem clients, you know, and just then you're in a good position, and then you can actually just say, well, this client's just a problem and it's just the way it is. But it's all about managing the expectations and setting the standards and then dealing with the stress load of bad customers. That's just part of the game, and that's just what it's got to be. So I hope that helps, guys. You know, I could go on for quite a while about that and problem customers. But look, some people are good, some people are bad. That's it in a nutshell. But you've got to be doing absolutely everything that you can do so that you're minimizing all those problems and not giving your customers any reason to be a problem. That's the better way of looking at it, taking ownership for it yourself and just understanding that once in a while you're going to have a dick customer, and that's just life, and that's the realities and the facts of the game of business. So if you've enjoyed this episode, drop me a line on Instagram. It's at Dean Barton Real. It's always good to hear feedback from people and go, yep, that was cool. I like that. I enjoyed that. So I can sort of steer the content and the topics that I do on this podcast to you guys listening in and what you want to hear. So do that and give me, like I say, drop me a line, and I'll see you on the next one. Bosh.